This is planning your presentation, how to go from idea to finished presentation quickly and easily. So I'm so excited to have you here today. I'm Carla Rieger, and if you have a webinar you're trying to plan, or a video that you want to do, or even a Facebook Live, or a live presentation or workshop or anything like that, it can be kind of daunting. You know, you have the date in the calendar, you're going to do it, and it's like, okay, what am I going to say? What am I going to say first? What am I going to say second? And hopefully, you know, you're not doing it at the last minute, because that's when you kind of panic and throw a few things together. Or what some people do, and there's nothing wrong with this, is they just start speaking with no planning ahead of time. Now, some people can do that. If you really know your topic and you're really good at keeping to timelines and covering the things that you promised that you would cover in a specific period of time, that's great. Some people can do that. Most people, especially if you're starting out with a new topic or you're newer to presenting, that's harder to do. So this is going to give you a little step-by-step process so that you can do that. So handout that you can get, 6 questions you basically need to answer. And here's some examples, like who are your listeners and what kinds of goals can you help them achieve? So for a client I just worked with, it's company business owners at a global event. And how many people will likely attend? Well, in her case, it would be like 2,000 people. So obviously you got a big group. It's in front of all your peers. You want to do a good job, right? And so being well prepared is, you know, really important. What kind of AV will you have in terms of mic, projector, screen? So that's good to know, that you can think through, okay, am I going to have slides or am I not going to have slides? Will I have a lav mic, or do I have to hold a mic? Right? That's a really different scenario, right? And will I have a lectern to put my notes on, or will I not? Right? And is the screen right behind me, or is the screen going to be to the side of me? And what's the lighting like? Like, if you know all that ahead of time, it's going to make you feel much more comfortable. What kind of seating will it be? In her case, it was, you know, theater style, but sometimes people are sitting in tables, right? And so you want to understand sort of the logistical, like how well can they see you? Is it like a huge room, or is it a small room? And what's the main thing you want to leave them with? So for her, she really wanted to leave them with the message of staying focused during the tough times. Because their company was going through some hard times and people were thinking of quitting. And so it was really about getting people motivated to stay focused with some top tools and tips. So, and why do you want to give this presentation? What are your ultimate goals, right? And so she wrote down, to make an impact with people, to grow my skills to the next level as a speaker, and to feel like I'm making a difference, to grow personally and professionally. So think that through for yourself and answer those questions. Maybe write them down close by as you do this. And so then you really want to think about your central idea and your objectives. And that's the really important part. A lot of people start speaking and they're not really sure what they want to say or what their goal is. And that can make you, and I'm sure you've watched presentations like this where you're really not sure of the point the person's trying to make, right? They're telling this story, they're talking about this important concept, but it doesn't all hang together nicely. It's not structured. And when people listen to presentations like that, it can be frustrating. Especially there's certain type of people that really like structure, and that's how they learn and get what you're trying to say. So it's very important that you think this through ahead of time. Like, if you can do it magically on the spot, that's great. Most people, they can't do that. Right, so here's an example of some central ideas that have been very popular, you know, with TED Talks or whatever, like choose your attitude to make you more resilient. So that's a topic I've used, a central topic I've done for keynote. Adults need to play too. Well, that's a TED Talk. For the Improv Everywhere guy did a TED Talk. That was his basic underlying premise of the whole talk, right? You need to be able to say it in one sentence. Vulnerability makes you a stronger, wiser person. That was Brene Brown's TED Talk central idea, right? start with why to get people more engaged. That was Simon Sinek's TED Talk central idea. Maybe you've seen that one. And then this famous speech by Martin Luther King in the 1960s, I Have a Dream speech, was it's possible for different races to live together in peace. So think about that for yourself. What's your central idea? And then you want to think about, well, what's your objective for doing this presentation? So if you're doing like a webinar or a teleseminar or Facebook Live, or even a presentation where you're doing what's called an education-based marketing presentation, where you're giving some useful tools and tips for people, but at the end, you're going to offer people to get a deeper, fuller, longer-term experience with more results by giving them like a course or coaching or consulting or something that's going to help them take the few things that you gave them and really take action and get some results from that. So if you know that's your objective, you're going to obviously create a different structure to your presentation than if you were, say, doing something like an open mic, where you're just going to try some new material online or at somebody's event, or maybe like you're doing a TEDx talk, which is, again, it's sort of a free presentation that you give, but you're not supposed to promote anything. And so you're just sharing an idea worth spreading. And then there's the paid speech, like maybe you're a paid trainer doing a workshop, or it's part of your job, or you're a paid keynote speaker. So again, that's going to change your structure, right? Workshop or training, or it could be a self-produced event, right? Where you're inviting people in to attend a seminar and you're charging money at the door, or, you know, a training webinar, same thing, it's a self-produced event. So then you just want to structure it, right? You kind of want to think of these three things while you're structuring. One is your ethos, your credibility, values, and ethics. You want to, you know, make sure you talk about those kind of things. Like, you know, my credibility is that I've been a presenter speaking, I've probably spoken on over 1,500 stages on 5 different continents. And I've been doing this over 25 years. And I've been coaching people for 15 years. So I'm probably a presentation nerd. I love this topic. I research it all the time. My values are that I believe that you should really appeal to many different learning styles. And when you do that, I feel like you are helping people learn in a short period of time. And my mission is to see a lot more highly creative presentations where people are using stories, they're using a bit of humor, they're, you know, working at many different levels of how people understand. So that's, you know, so that's what you would do for yourself. And the other thing is you want to include your pathos, your enthusiasm, and your passion for your topic. So I went from being totally nervous and introverted with dyslexia, and now I speak on all these big stages. I've spoken up to 4,000 people at a time, and I do it and feel great and confident. And so I figure if I went on that journey, anyone can. And now I help people, even if people think, oh, I'm an introvert, I'm too shy, I'm not the type of person who can, you know, get in front of a group. Sometimes those people make the best speakers. And you might be an outgoing person and also love speaking, but you need to sort of be more structured and think it through more. So that's my passion for the topic. And then your logical proof. So, and that's your structure of your presentation, so that you'll see that as I'm going through the presentation, I'm creating a logical argument for why you should do a presentation planning the way I'm suggesting. So what you want to do is create a burning desire for your audience to listen. And I'm a big proponent of basically having something you do right at the beginning that creates that burning desire, that opens up their curiosity, which is basically an overview of what they're going to get. And that can often be your title, and also something that they're going to be able to take away, and maybe a story. If you've ever been in an airplane and they do the safety demo and you see that most people aren't listening, right? But if the flight attendant was saying, by the way, one of our engines has died, and I'm going to need you to listen to the safety demo. How many people do you think would pay attention? Right. It's like all of a sudden, okay, how does that oxygen thing work now? Right. So that's what you kind of want to do. You want to appeal to people's hunger, needs, and deep desires. And so you sort of have to get down to that. That's why you have to obviously do lots of audience research. But, you know, in my case, I feel like a lot of people, they get really overwhelmed when they know they have to create a presentation. They just don't know where to start, and they don't know how to do it quickly, or it seems like it's going to be a big, long, complicated thing. And so I'm going to show you that it's actually a lot easier than you think. So you want to choose an order. So there's two types of presentations. Basically, there's an information. So I'm sharing a bunch of information with you today about how to plan your presentation. There's also persuasional kind of presentations where you're teaching some information. All persuasional presentations, by the way, are both informational and persuasional, because you want to obviously give information that would then persuade somebody to do something. So for example, buy your product, sign up in your team, work harder if you're like a sales motivational trainer, that kind of thing. And within persuasion, there's several different types of ways that you can do that persuasion. One, problem solution, is just for people who are fairly open to your idea. So there's a problem, and then there's the solution, and they're kind of bought into it. List of reasons is where they're a little bit skeptical, but slightly open, where you have to go into more detail about why they would want to consider your central idea as a good idea. And then for completely skeptical people, and I have a client who her job is to teach people who have been bullying others on campus. They have to come into a special training to learn why bullying's not a good idea. So she has to do a lot of persuasion to get them to listen. So criteria satisfaction is like, you say you want all these things, and yet here's the outcome of your behavior or your actions in the world. See, it's not working, and here's why my solution might be a better fit. So that's when you have to really know your audience and why they would be doing the opposite thing that you want them to do. So then you just want to do a brainstorm with headers, right? So you have learning styles of different people that obviously I really believe in. So some people can learn just through hearing concepts, but that's a very small portion of the population. It's kind of auditory learners. They also tend to like facts and stats, and so they're fine learning that way. But you know, some people are more what I call right brain learners, and they need something that's more creative. And so quotes can be useful for that, examples, metaphors, and stories. And then there's always the kinesthetic learners that need some audience participation, that need to be doing something, need to be applying what you're saying or physically participating in some way. And you can do that even in an online presentation or a keynote where everyone's sitting in rows. And then visuals, obviously lots of people are visual learners. As you see, I'm putting up different slides here that can be very useful for lots of people. So if you can hit them all, that would be the best. And so here's what I think is always good, is to do a mind map. Now, if you're used to mind mapping, this is great. If you're not, I suggest learning it, because it's really the way we go from big, massive ideas to structure. And what people do instead is they'll tend to start writing like on a Word document or whatever, and they're getting into this logical mode. It's not working, right? What they do is they get into the editor mind, is they come up with an idea and then they go, no, I don't want to do that. And then they'll erase that, and then they'll start writing again, and then they'll write a bit further, and then they come up with another idea, and then they go, oh, that's not going to work with that idea. And so they keep sort of starting and stopping. It becomes very frustrating, and that's why a lot of people wait to the last minute to prepare, because they're trying to do it the through what I call a linear logical way first. So this is the whole brain, right brain, non-sequential way. And I use an online mind mapping tool that's at bubble.us, bubbl.us, and you can do up to 3 mind maps for free. And so you just start with a central idea, like this is the brainstorm for this particular speech that my client came up with. And we were working on this. So then we have subheaders like visual, metaphors, quotes, facts, stories, audience participation, examples, and concepts. And then we just start brainstorming between the two of us. That's what we were doing. We were just like, okay, given your title was staying focused during tough times, what are some concepts that you want to talk about? Well, obviously the main one is staying focused during tough times, but then letting go of seeking approval might be one of them. Activating your inner superhero, getting prepared. Now, we actually came up with those after we came up with all the other stuff, so that's just something to let you know about that. Sometimes you need to do that, is that come back to the concepts after you've explored what kind of stories and examples. So she started thinking about different people. She had climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. She had achieved a certain level in her company. She'd had some tough times over the years. And so we created little stories and examples of, tough times she had gone through in her personal life as well as in her company life. Just because any idea goes at first, right? You don't want to, put up an idea and go, oh, no, I don't want to use that one. Just get it all down, right? So we had way more ideas than this. I just culled it down so we could get it all on the page here. So we culled it all down, and this is what we ended up with actually putting into the presentation. So that's just what you want to think about. Like a metaphor is she wanted to use the idea of a bridge or climbing a mountain to we really talk about the concept of staying focused during tough times. People like metaphors or quotes, right? There's a great quote from the mouths of children, and she wanted to include that. And then she thought about audience participation. Well, there's a little activity called a bridge activity. There's a little, pair share thing you do with a handshake. There's self-writing activity. So again, it's not participating with someone else, but you're doing some writing while she's doing her presentation. So, and then just some facts. She wanted to pull in some facts. Now, how are facts different from concepts? Well, facts are like, something that happened to you during your childhood. Or for her, what was it like being a massage therapist versus being a network marketer? And she wanted to talk about a certain law that's in her culture and what is the fact of that, right? So that just gives you an idea of these different areas to just go big on. And it's fun to do it with somebody else because they'll have ideas you don't think of, but you can also do this alone. So then you want to structure it. So then we start a new one. We have one on one page and another on the other page. And then we'll just, what I like to do is have these different headers: opening, overview, point 1, point 2, point 3, and closing. That's just a starting place. There's a million structures you can do for your presentations, but I find this to be particularly useful just to get started. So it's like presentation paint by numbers. So the opening, we wanted an attention grabber, so we thought we'd talk about her climbing Mount Kilimanjaro somewhere in the middle of the story. Then she gave a little overview of her background and why she's giving this presentation. Then point number 1, we realized after looking at all the brainstorm, was point number 1 of staying focused during tough times is to let go of needing approval from others. So she had a lot of great examples and a story, both in her mountain climbing story and also using that as a metaphor for climbing the mountain within her company. So she starts with when she started in the company. So we're juxtaposing two stories, right? Mountain climbing and climbing the mountain of getting to a certain level in her company, right? And so those are really interesting juxtapositions using the metaphor of mountain climbing within her company. So point number 2 is getting properly prepared. And again, she had all these examples within her company as well as within the mountain climbing story. And the third was activating your inner superhero. And she had like a wonderful story of a friend of hers who gave her the superhero costume. And then she talked about her, again, her company and the mountain climbing, and then closing with what's the main idea you want to leave people with. So then what do you do? Once you have that structure, here's what I like to do is you go in a voice memo, say on your iPhone or whatever smartphone you use, whatever recording device you use, and then basically you just hit record and you start talking. And you look up, you look at your mind map, or if you've put it on flip charts, and you just go through the points and just free flow talk as if you suddenly had to give the presentation and that's all you had to look at was your mind map. Because a few reasons to do that is, number one is the speech cadence and the word choice and the rhythm will all be spoken word, and that's going to sound better than when you sit down and type. It tends to be more narrative kind of prose, and it doesn't sound quite right when you speak it. So that's one reason to do that. And then once she had the whole transcript, you just send it to a transcription service. I love rev.com. They do transcription, captions, and translation. And you send it to them, and I think it's $1 a minute, which is great. And literally, they turn it around in one day, and then you get this whole transcript, usually in a Word document, and it looks like this, say. Now, this is actually after we've gone in and added headers and so forth. But so that's like your first rough draft, right? Is it ready yet? No. Now, some of you are asking about like scripts and is it really wise to use scripts? I'm going to tell you, you won't be reading from a script when you do the presentation. This is just because once you have a script like this, you can see the structure, see what's missing, move stuff around so much more easily because you'll have the details of what's in your script. You'll also have a script, actually you could read from if you're doing a teleseminar. You don't ever want to read from a script when you're talking live and people can see you, because I don't know, you've probably seen people do that where they're like, okay, the next point I want to tell you is, now some people can be very lively and potent when they read a script. And if you can, that's great. Like some people are just natural that way or they've been trained that way. But a lot of people, they start to have this really boring tone of voice. They kind of lose their connection with the audience. So I'll show you how to turn it into note form. So that's like a second revised draft where we put in sections, right? And then her and I were going back and forth, making it better and better. Now, the other way you can do it if you don't want to get on mind mapping software and figure that out is just plain old ordinary stickies on flip charts. So you have, like I have down the left side there in pink, the right brain is your why story, examples, metaphors, case studies, comparisons, testimonials, quotes. Those appeal to the right brain. Audio visuals are the slides of the brochures, the handouts, the worksheets, the music, business cards, all that kind of stuff. And then the experiential is, you know, audience Q&A, all the group work, summarizing, games, all that kind of stuff. And then you just kind of start to brainstorm, what could I put? And each idea is a separate sticky, and you'd put it down next to the category and just see what comes up. Now, this is a culled down version. This is after I figured out what I wanted to keep. So you have all these ideas, and then you choose the ones you want to keep, and then you start to put them in an order. And so the order might look like this. So across the top, you have opening, overview, point 1, point 2, point 3, closing. And then I would just take the stickies from one flip chart and just put them in the order that made the most sense. So that's another way to do it. And sometimes getting up and moving around, if you're a kinesthetic learner, is, you know, great. And then if you are going to do slides, then you can redo your script in terms of the slide number. So the opening question is slide number 1, and then that's the script you would say for that slide, and then slide number 2 is quick overview, and that's what you'd say for that slide. And that could be really useful, especially if you're doing a webinar. And then I suggest putting it into note form. So here is the note form version, like in PowerPoint. So there's the picture that you'd be showing. There's everybody at the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, and then these bullet points. And you can have the bullet points as a, script somewhere on your lectern if you're speaking live. So you just look down at the notes and like, okay, that's what I'm going to say next. The less the notes, the better. If you have too many notes, it becomes too confusing to find your place again after you've looked up and gone down again. But some people use the notes form in PowerPoint. So that's just a quick and dirty way to do it that a lot of people like. You can choose some of these ideas or all of them, depending. I find this is the quickest way to go from great ideas to structure, to script, to slideshow, to note form, so you're ready to go. Now, obviously, then you want to rehearse it. So that you work out the glitches. If you have slides to go through, you make sure that there's nothing weird with the slides, and you figure out your transitions, and you see where, by rehearsing, you see, oh, I don't really know what I'm saying in that part, so then you can go over it and over it. And I always like to record myself again on my iPhone, so I can hear myself back. I hear myself back at least once or twice, and then I know what to fix. I know how I sound. I know what parts are interesting, what parts are less interesting. I'll be hearing it from the point of view of my listener, and I'll go, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, I forgot to say something really important, right? So that's why you want to record it at least once. And that forces you to rehearse it, which is good. A lot of people, they just go live without any rehearsal, and then it glitches out on them, and then they get more nervous, and then they feel bad, and then it affects their performance. And now I know some of this seems like a lot of work to some people, but I swear to God, certain presentations, I've done one presentation that's made me over $1 million just doing the same presentation over and over again because I polished the diamond so well, and just a different audience, right? All the presentations I've created, I just in the end have a few, and I polish them so well, and I just keep doing them over and over again to different audiences. What you don't want to do is create a new presentation every time. If possible, you're getting in front of a group. Yes, edit it, customize it to your group, but don't keep making up new material at the last moment, because that's like giving people a book that's been edited once. It's going to be full of mistakes and glitches. It won't be well thought through. And now, again, some people are just unbelievably brilliant the first time they speak, and that can be true for you. So it depends on how well you know your topic and how good you can structure things in the moment. So you got to make it work. All these ideas make it work for you.
Now, you won't necessarily script all your presentations, but always do it for an education-based marketing presentation, just because it's so important for you to get it right. Now, it's not about memorizing it word for word, because you don't want to come across as too canned. However, scripting it helps you think it through at a variety of levels and come across as more professional, balance the learning styles. It'll make you feel more confident, and you'll embody the message much more so that being spontaneous will actually be easier, and it ensures it just flows well through the transitions from one aspect to the other, and it'll way more likely turn your presentation into more income. And then when you want to do it again a few months down the line, you'll have it all there, the entire script. Instead of in note form, you might forget what you meant by each of the points. So one thing I like to use is voice recognition software, and what I use is Dragon Naturally Speaking for the PC. The latest is home version 11, and it used to be $100, but now I notice you can get it on Amazon for $30, so that's a big savings. On the Mac, it's called Dragon Dictate, and you just train it and it'll say what you say, which is incredible for people who get sore wrists with all the typing or who are a slow typist. So rewriting and editing. It doesn't have to be brilliant at this point. First drafts, even second drafts, are not usually the best, and it'll just keep getting better, but get something down. Just make sure you save as and create a version 2 in case you end up deleting something you want to include again later. Now, word count will let you know how long it's going to take you to say that script. So in almost any word processing program, you will have under Tools a word count option. So just find out how many words you speak per minute. Some people speak faster than others. I just spoke for 5 minutes, saw how many words that was, and divided it by 5 to come up with the fact that I speak about 150 words per minute.
So if you wanted to do a 20-minute speech and you spoke 150 words a minute, your speech would need to be about 3,000 words long.
Getting feedback. So I encourage you to rehearse your script and get feedback on it from a variety of sources. So talking to your web camera, use a digital recorder, and then listen to it, watch it again. Get others to give feedback on some or all of it. Ask people to comment on, what works, what stood out, what do you like, what would you change, where is it confusing, or where are there leaps of logic, where does it go on too long. Would you be inspired to hire me, buy from me, and if not, why not?
Now, if you feel like this is great and I'll never do it by myself, but I need some help. Well, I do individual and group coaching programs. I have what's called the Emerald Coaching Program for being a top-notch presenter. And this is to supercharge your mindset and presentation, particularly one particular presentation, so that you can exponentially increase your income and life fulfillment. And it's on special right now, so I just wanted to let people know about it. What we would do is we would go through that process together, and I do a lot of work in the background, researching, figuring out, what would be the best kind of stories and examples for you. So you have another set of eyes, another mind to brainstorm with, and together we create this great vortex. And two minds are better than one. And I know the process, so you can just relax and be in creativity mode, and I'll just pull stuff out of you. And then, I help edit the script and put it in a structure that I know is going to be potent for people and pull out the kind of things that I think would be particularly resonant with your particular audience. So that's available for people. And if you're interested, there's an application process. You have to apply. It's not for everyone. I want to share there's a good fit, that you're spending your time and money wisely. But I do want it to be a win-win experience for everyone involved. So that's why I just want to have you apply first. So there's a questionnaire that you fill out that looks like this. And then if I think it might be a good fit, then we have like a 30-minute session together, and we might get a breakthrough together. And even if you don't end up doing the coaching, sometimes I make sure you leave with something useful. And if you do end up coaching with me, you get a sense of whether I would be the good person for you. So that's just another option if you feel like this is great and I'll never do it by myself. I need help. I need it done quickly. So I will put up the link on this page so that you can see where to go for that. And now I just want to see if there's any questions. One that's come up a lot with this presentation is why do a script? Like a lot of people think, that's a lot of work. But again, if you do a presentation and then 6 months later, you get asked to do the same presentation and all you have are notes, or all you have are your slides, I personally find that I don't remember what goes with those slides. I don't remember what my notes mean. But if I have the whole script, it's like, oh, that's what I meant to say. Especially for stories and examples, it's just so amazingly helpful to have the actual detail of the story, because you want to tell those in a certain way. And then again, you have a script that you could put into blog posts. It could be a book eventually. So you're multi-purposing. These, creating these scripts for your presentations are a lot of work, right? But if you do it once and then you can multi-purpose it for years and years, like I have some scripts I created like 15 years ago that I'm still making money from, that I'm still helping people with, because I did all that work back then. Yeah, great question, Sarah. Can you speak to the magic of the 3 points? What about 2 or 4? Yes, absolutely. You can do 1 point, 2 point, 4 points, 5 points. It was just an example to get you started. Like obviously, the longer the presentation that you have, the better, the more points you want to make. But what I find a lot of people do, especially they'll go, oh yeah, I have a 20-minute talk, I have a 18-minute TED talk to give, and I think I'll share these 10 points. Now the problem with that is if you're trying to share 10 points, You're only going to get to go shallow with each of them if you have a short period of time. If you have like a 3-day workshop, boom, yeah, go for 10 points, right? There's something about a 3 or a 5 or an uneven number that people remember. I don't know why. If you do 4, sometimes, I don't know why people don't remember those. But a lot of TED Talks, for example, short presentations are one idea worth sharing. And I think that's better to go deep with one than to try to, I mean, you can have subheadings of that one central idea, but with a short period of time, just one idea I think is best. But sometimes you have a model that you're teaching. Your model has 4 sections to it. So boom, then obviously you want to put it into 4. In fact, the more you have sort of a system or a structure behind what you're teaching that people can remember and take away and reuse, the better. So I just think behind any structure that you make in a presentation, thinking that through as a sort of a system, you know, even having an image like a box or triangle or whatever is useful. Good question. Okay, if we don't have any more questions for now, I'm going to sign off. And if you have more questions, you can add them here, or, you know, there are all those other great ways to reach me. So bye for now, everybody. Thanks for listening. Until next time.